straight into the roof of the net.
Nice slump.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. The bottling seems to be the theme on the show today. We've one club dubbed Bottlers turning the tide and sitting on the cusp of something special. After a trophyless drought of 2 decades, what are the Gunners doing right and who has been responsible for the turnaround? Chess fans all around the world thought Magnus Carlsen had bottled his chances of winning the Rapid Blitz Tournament in Poland. He was frustrated, said his nervous system had collapsed, and from there to a historic winning streak, Carlsen defines his skill set one more time. And over in tennis, from getting bottled, quite literally, to possibly bottling up the match and the tournament at Italy. What is troubling World No.1 Novak Djokovic? He says he was feeling nauseous even on match day. But could there be more to this? Let's take a look at all of this in a bit. But first, all the headlines from the world of sports and Sports 360. We'll start with cricket and the IPL. Chennai beat Rajasthan by 5 wickets, but more than the victory, it was Ravindra Jadeja's dismissal that grabbed all the attention. In the 16th over, while returning to his crease, Jadeja was given out for obstructing the field. Jadeja became only the 3rd player in the history of the tournament to get out this way. Chennai, with that, strengthens their chances of qualifying for the playoffs. Over in football, Bayer Leverkusen continued their unbeaten run with another victory. Leverkusen beat VfL Bochum 5-0 to stretch their unbeaten run to 50. Patrick and Victor scored a goal each in the first half, while Amin, Joseph and Alex added 3 more goals to Leverkusen's tally. Leverkusen are just 3 games away from an invincible treble. Over in tennis, world number 3 Alexander Zverev beat Luciano Darderi in straight sets. Zverev got the better of the Portuguese with a 7-6-6-2 victory in the 3rd round match. Zverev will face Nuno Borges in the 4th round on March 14th. Over in the NBA, Denver Nuggets beat Minnesota Timberwolves 115-107 in the semi-finals of Western League Conference. Nikola Jokic exhibited his prowess by contributing 35 points, 16 of which were crucially scored in the 4th quarter. The series is now poised at 2-2 with 3 games left. And India's Parvez Khan won the gold medal at a 1,500-meter race at the SEC Championship in the USA. Khan recorded 3 minutes 42.73 seconds on the clock to clinch his 2nd medal in the tournament. Khan hails from India's Haryana, where his father is a farmer. Now, Arsenal Football Club has a storied legacy, but one that is marred by inconsistency. A club with 13 league titles and yet none in the past 2 decades. Clearly there's legacy, but one that hasn't stopped or at least lasted the test of time. The Gunners, as they are famously called, have had moments of brilliance, overshadowed by bouts of underperformance. That has been their story of late. But the tide, it seems, is changing. From the bottlers tag, the Gunners are now title contenders. And one man has been responsible for this turnaround. It's been a resurgence led by none other than their manager, Mikel Arteta. Arsenal beat Manchester United 1-0 in their Premier League clash last night. Leandro Trossard scored the only goal in the 20th minute, and that scoreline stayed. The win, of course, means Arsenal are back on top of the Premier League points table, giving Manchester City a bit of a fight, who's just 1 point behind in the 2nd spot. So what did Arsenal do right? Heading into the United game, Arsenal were 2 points behind Manchester City, and despite United struggling this entire season, the Red Devils, we know, are a threat at least at Old Trafford, their home. The pressure was on Arsenal, but Mikel Arteta's men weren't going to bottle it this time, weren't going to bottle up the league this time. The game saw a clear change in Arsenal's mentality. The Gunners pushed United at their ground and proved why they are title contenders this year. They refused to crumble under pressure. They were the more dominant side with 11 shots on target. Just a reiteration of how they have performed not just last night but throughout the whole season. Arsenal have fought tooth and nail for every single point this year, not letting pressure get to them. their biggest fault from the previous season. And this tenacity, this drive isn't something that's happened overnight. The process has been a while coming and it's been arduous. For instance, the club has persisted with Mikel Arteta, kept the faith in him and his method for close to 5 years now. When Arteta took over Arsenal in 2019, everyone was a little skeptical. Many questioned the decision. Could a relatively inexperienced man turn the tide for a club in dire need of rejuvenation as manager of the side? Because Arteta had only served as an assistant to Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola. That was the closest he got to managing a team, managing a side, a top football club. Sure, he spent 3 years from 2016 to 2019 with Guardiola. That's precious. But that was still under the wings of Guardiola. And managing a club like Arsenal with close to zero experience at the helm seemed a bit impossible. Even for a student of the great Guardiola. But Arteta's tactical brilliance has constantly come to the fore in the past 5 seasons. After he took over the reins towards the end of the 2020 season, Arsenal won the FA Cup, but they finished 5th in the Premier League. So no qualification for the European competitions. Not a fabulous start, but Arteta did all right in the coming year. With Arteta in the role right through the season, the Gunners finished 8th once again, and it seemed like Mikel Arteta wasn't the right man for the job. But come 2022, the Spaniards started moving things around. With the 5th place and Europa League qualification, Arsenal began showing some signs of a resurgence. And ever since the 2023 season, Arsenal have been title contenders. Last season, they were title favourites up until January. But Arsenal's old demons reared their heads once again. The club lost its plot and finished 5 points behind eventual winners Manchester City, letting that pressure get to them the moment of the whole situation. And despite a second place finish, the tag of bottlers came back to haunt Arsenal. And despite having talented players like Bukayo Saka, Leandro Trossard, Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, the trophy drought continued for yet another year. But that can all change now. Arteta proved that it's about more than just the raw talent. It's about the mentality. And under Arteta, the club has proved that they have got that winning mentality because the manager himself believes in it. The mentality and the manifestation of that thought.
My brain always took me to the place where we are lifting the Premier League. That's what my brain is doing at the moment. So I just follow my brain and my gut, and this is how I feel. And this is as well the way that I want everybody to think, and hopefully we can achieve it.
Now, unlike last season, Arsenal haven't faltered this year. The club is consistently pushing with only 5 losses and 5 draws. The club even has a superior goal difference to that of City. And in the Premier League, they haven't lost to Manchester City and Liverpool this year. Arteta saying he isn't afraid of the experience of managers like Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp seems to have rubbed off on the players too. The club has been more attacking and more swift in their play. This year especially, Arteta's Arsenal is more focused on one-touch football, which is not only fascinating to watch but also dangerous for their opponents. But despite their dream season, Arsenal will need a little bit of help, a little luck from their North London rivals Tottenham Hotspurs if they want to lift the league title. Manchester City may be just 1 point behind Arsenal, but they have a 1-game advantage. And before their final clash, City will face Tottenham on the 14th of May. That's the D-date. And if City draws or loses against Tottenham, the title hopes will swing in Arsenal's favour. So Arsenal will be rooting for Tottenham on the 14th.
I'm going to be the biggest fan of Tottenham ever. We are all going to be. So let's hope for the best.
Havertz, of course, echoing what every single player, every single fan of Arsenal will be praying for come 14th and will be rooting for. The stage is set then for a dramatic final few days. Arsenal, once written off as also-rans, now stand on the precipice of something great. In a season that has been defined by their resilience and determination, all it takes now is a little bit of luck and some more grit. Now, before the start of the Rapid and Blitz Tournament in Poland, chess legend Magnus Carlsen said he'd teach the kids that he was up against him a thing or two. And after the Rapid section, when his younger opponent Wei Yi led the race, all of Carlsen's critics must have thought, here he goes again, eating humble pie. He said he'd be surprised to see an Indian win the candidates tournament some months ago and did not give D. Gukesh of all, or even Praggnanandhaa or Vidit any chance to reach the top 3. And Gukesh surprised him and some of the world by winning the candidates tournament. That was classical chess, a format that probably doesn't thrill Carlsen anymore, but Rapid and Blitz is a different beast. It tests the player, and Carlsen, being the oldest in the draw in Poland, was also the strongest contender to win this one. And then, of course, Wei Yi nosed ahead after the rapid rounds. And earlier on Sunday, India's Praggnanandhaa defeated Carlsen. It looked like Carlsen would have to eat his words once more, because he was a bag of nerves when he lost, and not once but twice. He lost to Praggnanandhaa, and then in a swindle for the ages, Carlsen muffed it up to lose to Nordirbek Abdusattorov. That really saw him emote. He slapped the air and let out his frustration at the blunder he'd made. And at that point, it was not just his critics, but Carlsen himself, who was doubting his own skills to win this all.
I just didn't have it today. I felt good from the start, but then I think my nervous system just collapsed during or after the game against Prague. And after that, I just sucked, honestly. The score was still half decent, but obviously, if Wei Yi continues to win, then it doesn't matter.
He said his nervous system collapsed, and it didn't matter if Wei continued to perform, that it was over. That was Magnus Carlsen a day before. But what a turnaround Sunday saw. Carlsen won 10 games in a row right from Saturday to the end of the tournament. Now let that thought sink in. He came out of the dumps, out of one of his bad days, and turned it all around to one of the most stunning ones, and still managed to just about get ahead of Wei Yi. So he knew he had to do something miraculous to get this title in the bag. Now here's an interesting fun fact. Just last year at a Rapid and Blitz tournament in Croatia, Magnus Carlsen won 9 games in a row to win the tournament. It was an astonishing feat back then. And post that win, this is what he said.
Just very, very special to me. I've had good days, but in terms of score, and I've definitely played better. I've had stretches like in Poland, I've had 10.5 out of 11 or something. But to win every single game on one day, I've never done that before, and probably won't do it again.
He says he's had some great days, but winning streak like that on a single day is not something that can ever happen, not something he can do again. And he does it again, even better in Poland. Just less than a year later, in 10 months, he bulldozes the entire competition. And it's a monumental achievement to be down and out and then come out and beat almost every opponent on a single day, 10 of them. And at a stretch, 3 on Saturday, he was disappointed even then, despite ending on a high, because he knew he needed to do something extraordinary on Sunday. He enters Sunday still 2.5 points behind the leader, Yi, and proceeded to close out 7 wins. He was held to a couple of draws thereafter and retained that slender lead to win the tournament. His 7th straight tournament win. Again, something amazing. The Norwegian has been a monster. And just when the knives came out, silenced them all. There were a number of comments from fans, chess lovers, when Carlsen muffed up that game against Abdusattorov, saying he was done. The reign was ending and Carlsen wouldn't win this tournament. Magnus Carlsen proved once again he is the king. He was in a bit of a daze right after the win when the FIDE, the governing body, came to him for his first reactions, and understandably so, the adrenaline after that would have been high. And he says just 2 words in the end: I fight hard. The mark of a true champion, and one who is constantly setting the bar higher for the younger brigade that is snapping at his heels. Novak Djokovic, a man who's ruled the tennis world for some time now, at 36, has redefined the sport. A man who fears nobody, but that was till the end of last year. This year has been a rather quiet one. From a winning streak and an intimidating force coming into this season to getting knocked out of the tournament in the 3rd round itself, Djokovic seems to be in a bit of a rough patch. It's almost time for the French Open to begin, and he has no titles to show this year just yet. In the Italian Open, Djokovic was knocked out by Alejandro Tabilo, but before that, He was also accidentally hit by a fan's water bottle while he was signing autographs after his second round victory. Clearly, all is not going too well for this champion.
The year 2024 has been a weird one for this world number one, Novak Djokovic. Let's start at the Italian Open and work backwards, shall we? Djokovic was knocked out by Alejandro Tabilo in the third round of the tournament, and it wasn't just the defeat that caught the eye. Little-known Tabilo is ranked 29th in the world. Djokovic losing to him in straight sets was a bit of a shocker for him and his fans. But this tournament has been a bit strange for the Serb. After his second round win, in fact, Djokovic was knocked on the head by a bottle that had accidentally fallen out of a fan's hand. This was while he was signing autographs, and as soon as the bottle struck him, Djokovic clutched his head in pain and crumpled to the floor. People rushed in to help Djokovic, but things seemed fine the day after. Djokovic showed up to training, and his inimical humour was not amiss. He in fact turned up wearing a bike helmet over his white cap. He proceeded to sign some more autographs to a group of fans who saw the lighter side of this and laughed along. But Djokovic, after the loss, says the bottle incident possibly did more damage than he had thought at the time.
I think in the video you saw it very clearly. It was a very unfortunate, unlucky situation for me. I had headaches, but the next day or yesterday was pretty fine. So I thought, it's okay, but maybe it is okay, maybe it's not. The way I felt on the court today was just completely it's like a different player entered in my shoes. Just no rhythm, no tempo, no balance whatsoever on any shot. So it's a bit concerning.
Well, maybe he was bottled and that led to the loss. But there are bigger concerns right now that Djokovic has to face. Ever since his triumph at the French Open last year, the Serb has not been at his very best. It's his consistency and mental toughness that sets him apart from his competitors and has done so for years. But that same competitiveness hasn't come through these last few months. Apart from the 2023 Wimbledon Championship, where Djokovic dragged Carlos Alcaraz for a 5-set match, the Serb hasn't pushed his competitors. Yes, he still added a US Open title after the Wimbledon upset, but that was the last Grand Slam win. The Australian Open loss to Jannik Sinner hurt him hard. Djokovic hasn't won a single tournament. He lost to unseeded Luca Nardi at the Indian Wells Masters, then to Norway's Casper Ruud at the Monte Carlo Masters, and now this, the third round loss against Tabilo. Even the best encounter the unlikeliest of losses, but the reason we're forced to look more closely is because this comes at a phase when Djokovic is mentorless. This comes after he parted ways with Goran Ivanisevic and even hinted at the possibility of going without a coach for the next phase of his career. But can he get past his tussle with the bottle and bottling the tournament? Because the French Open is around the corner, then it's Wimbledon, and after that, the Olympics. He will step onto the clay court at Roland Garros with the intention of defending the title. But there needs to be more than just that this time around.
Time for last serve. Now, farewell is always emotional for anyone, especially if you've spent 6 years with the team. Kylian Mbappe experienced just that during Paris Saint-Germain's last home game. The fans gave Mbappe an epic send-off. Take a look. those images capturing one of the most emotional rides for sure. And there's lots that's waiting and in store for Kylian Mbappe here on. That does it here on Firstpost. Thanks for joining in. I'll see you again tomorrow.